All right.
Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML. And today we're on book 114. It's incredible journey so far, but it's we passed the century mark like 2, 3 weeks ago, and we are excited to keep going, and there are plenty more. And today we want to talk about uh, you know, a book of I guess this is more or less a principle of how you want to approach things.
Yeah,
So I'll let you introduce the book and maybe let's talk about your reflection title and see what we can learn from it.
let's do it. So the book today is Zen Mind and Beginner's Mind. Informal talks on Zen meditation and practice by Shunryu Suzuki.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a pretty famous book from meditation perspective, and in just in general, like the Zen philosophy, and this guy is a pretty famous author, especially American Zen books in general. So what I loved actually, well, I'll get into the
Mm-hmm.
reflection, but basically this guy kind of breaks down the fundamentals of meditation and Zen and what it means and how it works and what it's all about really. And the book's called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind because it's all about keeping that beginner's mind in mind when you're going through this stuff. Like you don't really know anything, you're not an expert. It's very much in line with some of the stuff that we say all the time of like we don't know anything, right? So
Right.
actually, ironically, that was my kind of general reflection title for this one, which was absolute ignorance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll explain this one as I get to it. The my reflection really didn't have a lot to do with absolute ignorance. I'll bring it back together. Hopefully, at the end, it'll make sense. But this book, when I was reading this book, I don't know about you, but like I've personally always been just like terrified of meditation. I mean, you've known me for a long time now. I'm super hyperactive. I'm a fast talker. I'm a fast worker, ball of energy, kind of, that's who I am, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like me sitting still is almost impossible. I'd rather be a blur of activity all day long. And ideally those activities are ones that, relate to things I care about the most in this world. Like that's been a big change in my life that Amelia helped to help me to see that paradigm shift of what if I just applied that energy to things that I actually really cared about,
Right.
see what would happen. But either way, that's kind of how I've always been my entire life. And the thought of me just sitting down, chanting cross-legged, on a floor, going or whatever it was, like whatever you're supposed to do through Zen meditation, it just never made sense to me. I mean, I don't. I've tried one of my monthly challenges on it. I couldn't do it. I've read, I don't know, this is probably like the fourth, I wouldn't say meditation themed book that I've read, and I'm just like, I just can't. I just could not get my head around it. I'm like, I hear Snow all the time talking about like, we
Uh-huh.
should really make meditation a part of like all this stuff. And I
Right.
know, and I know you have your own thoughts on meditation in general, but like, yeah, I mean, I'll pause there. I mean, do you have any? What are your thoughts on just meditation in general?
I think meditations is a way for you to I guess organize your mind in a way, because for me when I meditate, it's about being detached. I don't get emotional because when I say, if a thought comes to mind, I say, oh, that thought comes to mind. I'm looking at myself as a third person. Like I'm taking my body from a, kind of like, how you have a out of body experience, right? You
Yeah,
think from that perspective and you say, hey, I'm just observing. I'm just observing what happens, and I notice different things. And because of that, it allows me to correct things I don't want. For me, like I don't say, hey, I talk too loud or I stutter too much or whatever. I don't actually feel ashamed of it, because from when I'm meditating is I'm trying to observe without judgment, and so that helps.
yeah,
And also in
I
a
agree.
way, when there are certain I guess certain worries that I have, because I'm thinking from that detached perspective, yeah, it flows. It flows quickly. I don't keep thinking about that problem or that worries, right? I say, well, it's there. well, we're gonna have to figure out something. But that's fine. Let's move on, right?
Right.
And so the lot of the, I guess, the mental fatigue that you have as a when you meditate, it actually get released, versus having
Agreed.
hey, I worry maybe I can't do this job, or I can, whatever it is, whether that, I'm too sick to do anything, or I'm too weak to do anything, or I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm too whatever, right? Because of that, you worry, and it hangs on, and that creates a mental fatigue. And mental fatigue takes away your discipline. It takes away your things to do anything, because you kind of get stuck and rut. When you meditate, it allows you to escape that. So in my experience, it helps me with those kind of things. So I have a better way of coping with a lot of the, I guess, the what like the stimuli that comes into you, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Chris says something that may or may not, be intentional, but if I take it as an offense, then it becomes an offense, because you know what I mean. But if I don't, then it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
So to me, it does help, because that's how people say, you have to forgive people, because it's not for them, it's for you.
Right.
Because you don't forgive them, you hold on to that thought, and you're the one that's suffering, not them. They have no idea, right?
That's
If a guy
I heard
cuts.
once somebody say, uh not revenge, but holding a grudge is like drinking poison for like two people or something like that. It's like it just it does nothing. You don't get anything out of like, seeking, like what you were saying. It's like you're just
Right.
killing yourself twice. Like it's like, why? Like,
Yeah,
why yeah.
because if I inadvertently tell you something, and make a social slur about you, or something personal, that I have no idea that I offended you, right?
Right.
And I go along my merry way, and I'm
Right.
happy. Hey, Chris loves me, right? And he thinks I'm the coolest guy, I'm an awesome guy, whatever. And then I have a blast time thinking about how great we were, and then go to do your room, you mope it, hey, True said this about me, and blah blah blah, right? You're the one suffering.
Do,
I
do, you-
have no idea.
do you remember Billy Madison? Do you ever see the movie Billy Madison?
Yeah.
Remember the guy with the lipstick when Billy comes up, and he apologizes to him like 20 years later or whatever it was, and he's like,
Yeah, he
no
crushed
worries,
it.
man. Yeah, he goes home and he puts his lipstick on and crosses them off the people to kill list.
Yes, yes.
I mean, it does matter. I mean, anyway, all right. So no, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on meditation in general. So for me, like I always saw meditation one way, right? It was this
Right, and that's the thing is,
formal,
we have to disclaimer is that there's a lot of ways to meditate.
Well,
Some
okay, hang
people
on.
meditate
You're ruining my
to.
reflection here. Hang on,
Oh,
put a
sorry.
pause. So, so yeah, my
So don't
thing
go
is,
back to the corner and more after this, because I have no idea, and I didn't intend it, and I always think
uh,
be happy and carry on a smile all the night.
nice, nice. Well, no, that's not my whole reflection, but I'll get there. So I've always seen meditation as only one way, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like, it's like going to school, right? You either go to college or you don't go to college. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
that's higher education, like I've always,
Right.
like, before this whole journey, that's how I saw education, was like you go to a class, somebody tells you some shit, and you take a test and you get a piece of paper, right? Like that
Right.
was education. That's how I've seen it. That's how I've always seen meditation as well. Is you go sit on some pillows and you cross your legs and you do some weird chant shit, and and just like sit there, and I'm like, I've tried, like that doesn't work for me. So I decided to do what this book was recommending. What I loved most about this book was he broke down meditation into what it really is. He was like, like, don't be all the rules and rigidity and how people say to
Mm-hmm.
do this and that. He's like, that's not what it's about. All meditation that it's about in the first place is connecting your mind and body together through intentional thought, right? And I kept hearing that, and I kept thinking that, and he said that so many different times in so many different ways, of like, it doesn't matter that you can't do meditation wrong, like, and I and like and I kept thinking about that, and so I decided to to put my Chris spin on it, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
started to get creative, and I started to think, everything you were describing about how you value about meditation, I started to think about the same thing. I was like, what are those activities and the things that I do that I just get so absorbed into that I could feel like I'm in another spot, another place, like, I feel energized when I get done with it. I feel like, like I just can lock in on one particular thought or topic or whatever, or activity or something, in my life where I can just do it for hours and hours and hours. And it made me think about writing, and it made me think about tennis. So like when I write in the mornings and I'm doing these reflections or writing the book that I wrote before or whatever it may be, or just my morning journaling, like I am like just absorbed in it. Like, I mean, this is all that I'm thinking about. Like all I'm thinking about is absolute ignorance, right? And I'm thinking about, what does that mean? How does that work? How do I apply that to my life? What is that, and it just flows through my hands onto the keyboard, and boom, an hour later we have a reflection, or something like that. Sometimes I'm honestly, these days I'm kind of like I don't even know how it happens. Sometimes I like almost, I blink my eyes, and all of a sudden, like, I have this reflection that's out there, and I'm like, I don't remember how I got to where I got to. I mean, it just all just magically comes together now,
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I could think about was tennis, right? Every time I go play tennis, like I don't look at my phone. I don't check email updates. I don't worry about, I don't worry about anything other than that, the next point, the next match, the next, the next game, the next, serve, the next shot. Like, I mean, I'm in it. Like, I mean, I am 100% just like single thought of like, what do I need to do right now? And it is so relieving to just release yourself, to just get out of that space. So this book made me think of, the concept of like, Zen mind, beginner's mind, right? Like absolute ignorance. Like go into something. It doesn't always have to be just one way, right? Like this is how I think of meditation now. And I feel very relieved, like, and released, just like you talked about, with how you do this. I do it in other ways, and that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like the whole point is of meditation is connecting your mind and body together to a, on a singular activity, thought, whatever it may be, right? Like, and to go do that, and to feel that release from, everyday life, and just, that exhilaration that comes with it, and it made me think about the concept of absolute ignorance, right?
Right.
We talk about this all the time. I don't know how many times we say this, but we say it all the damn time. You don't know anything. I don't know anything. None of us know anything. And if you approach a situation like that, like meditation, it's always been a lifelong frustration of mine, of not understanding, or like formal education. I don't get it. Like what, I mean, I like learning, but like I like feeling like a release and relief from these tormentors that go on in your mind, right? But I don't know how this works for me. It doesn't apply to me. Like you have to take your own personal spin. If you have that absolute ignorance of like coming at things completely always a beginner, and how it works for you, and putting your own spin on it, and there's no rules of life, right? Like, I mean, it's all good. Like, find your own path that works for you. And having that absolute ignorance in mind, like, or beginner's mind, is a great way to put yourself in that place if you're struggling, you can't figure out like how to get through that. So that was a reflection for the day. Yeah, love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like the reflection. Is you have to have I mean, your reflection says, you want to have an absolute ignorance. And so to me, it reminds me of, if you're writing something, right? Do you want to write it with a piece of paper that have a bunch of text in it already?
No.
Exactly. You want a blank slate,
Yeah.
right?
Start from the
You
beginning.
want to
Yeah.
paint something, you
Right.
want a blank canvas, right? And so to me, this is a good lesson, a good approach. We always should approach any problem with a blank canvas,
Right.
because that allows you to have, so thinking about another way. You know how we talk about paradigm, right?
Yep.
There's so many paradigms out there. And because paradigms, i.e., a map, meaning where things are, right, and how things work, right? It's a map, right? So in order to go to the right place, you need to have the right map, right? So imagine if you say, I'm going to, add something to a map and do something, and I have a map already, and I'm start drawing more stuff. The problem is that you have these, based on the book thinking fast and slow, you have this anchoring, this
Yeah, this is what I
biases.
think about meditation is you got to sit on a pillow and chant
Yes,
Om, like,
exactly,
I mean,
exactly. You have
that's
these
what it is to me,
biases
Yeah, right.
that will stops you from actually achieving it, even though it's not supposed to, and
Yeah.
it didn't have to,
I
but
thought I was
it
broken,
did.
man. I'm not even joking. I so many times I thought I was broken. There's something wrong with me. Like I can't do it. Like, like, it's not like I didn't try. I did. I gave it
Right,
a
because
pretty damn good effort, like,
yeah, because
like,
you have an existing, I guess, existing drawing on a map, and you trying to draw your own map, but you have no idea where it fits. And so this is where it become confusing and chaotic. And so for me, when you approach a problem, any problem, start with a blank canvas. And when you do that, more likely than not, you will draw the right map that you will need
for yourself.
for yourself. Exactly.
Right.
And so having that concept is going to be very, very helpful for any of the problem you're trying to solve, because it eliminates that biases that you have. Because
Yeah.
you said it right there, you don't know anything about meditation, but you had a image in mind that when you meditate, you gotta
You
hit
gotta sit
that gong
cross-legged
or
and
the
yeah,
bells,
right.
and you have to
Like
chant
it's this big thing.
something,
Like
right?
you gotta have like a dedicated room of, like, a Buddha sitting
And then
over
you
your
have to
head, and,
sit
like, like, I
cross-legged,
mean,
and you have to close your eye, and you have to I don't know, like, hold your
yeah,
fingers a
hold your
certain
fingers like this,
way,
yeah, right, yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, right? Because but you don't know for sure, but you think that's the way it is, and you use that as part of the, I guess, the facts. And this is what we talk about back in the days when we talking about having like learning by osmosis, right? You learn about meditation through osmosis. You didn't
That,
actually actively learn about it. You just heard from people
I agree.
telling you,
It
or seeing it
helps.
on
It's
TV,
good.
right?
Do this. Like, here's the method, right? It's no different than, like, I mean, honestly, that's a really good point of, we talk about this all the time. We see all these people on, like, social media that are
Mm-hmm.
condensing all this stuff down, like, even if it's coming straight from their source, like, let's just assume that that's the source,
Mm-hmm.
is this was original content that they're producing and putting out, like an Adam Grant or a Simon Sinek or somebody like that, right? Like, and you see it all the time of, like, this great thought, that's being shared with other people. Well, in theory, that thought probably took Adam Grant, 20 years of thinking and writing and reflecting to be able to say those words, right? And then you're supposed to go, well, yeah, that makes sense to me, and now, like, how do I go apply that to my life? You don't. You're like, I don't get it. You just don't get it. Like, I mean, you can't uh, learn from just listening to somebody else's writing or talking or watching
You're
a
missing
video.
a
Like,
lot of rungs on a ladder, so
yeah,
you're trying to jump the
that's
rungs.
not how we learn. Like, we have to learn
This is
for
where you trip.
ourselves.
This is where you trip and you fall down on flat on your butt on the
Yeah.
ground, because you're trying to jump the rungs of the ladder, because the ladder didn't have all the rungs set for you.
And then it comes across as inauthentic. Like, I mean, if you ever saw me sitting on a pillow somewhere chanting Om, you'd go, well, that's not Chris Sears. Like, I mean, like, I don't know who that is. Like, I mean,
Yes.
he's, but I mean, if you saw, literally, if you saw me doing that, you'd probably be like, something's not right
Are
here.
you
Like,
okay, Chris?
right, yeah. And I don't mean that to say, like, I can't sit still. I can't sit still. Like, I mean, I have to move. Like,
Mhm.
like, I mean, literally, my back starts hurting, everything starts hurting. Like, I mean, I don't like it. Like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel good. I don't feel energized. I feel awful, actually. Like,
Mhm.
and it's like, I don't know. Everybody kept telling me how amazing meditation is, and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, what's so great about this? Like, I feel awful every time I try to do it. I feel like I'm a failure all the time.
Right.
Anyway, sorry, I totally derailed you.
Yeah, but like I said, the concept is really good. I mean, that's gonna give you, like I say, most of the time you will have um the wrong solutions. There's a company out there, it's called Innocentive. Basically what they do is they would post a problem online, and they will give you a bounty, and whoever can solve the problem, they will give you the bounty.
Like,
And
crowdsourced.
so it's like, hey, any problem,
Right.
like medicine,
Yeah, yeah.
engineering,
No,
whatever.
I've heard about this. Yeah, no, this is
And
cool. Yeah.
what's interesting is that the problem that the solution to most of the problem actually came out of a different, completely unrelated field.
Almost always. Like, I mean, the
Like,
people that are
I'm talking
the
about like
experts, yeah.
80-90% of
Right, yeah.
all these problem solutions to the problem, and like really good problem, the best problem, the best solutions to these problems that actually come from, like, you know, in medicine, right? Some farmers
Right.
have the best solution for them. And that's to show you that because you are deep in a trench of medicines or science or engineering, you
All you see.
have all
You
these
know.
assumptions that you took as facts, right?
Right.
And when you do that, this is where we're talking about the biases. The biases, it basically derails you from seeing the solution to your problem. That's why the
Right.
person outside of your field has a better perspective, because they don't actually ignore some of the things that you often ignore, just because it's so prevalent in that particular field, right? So you ignore them. And
I'll,
so
I got to give you this really good example when we're done. Sorry, finish your thought, but I got to just remind me to tell you this really good example of this in a second.
go ahead and tell.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, Settlers of Catan. Do you know what that is?
I sound familiar, but I think
It's like it's a board game. It's like Risk almost.
okay.
But like I honestly I don't know it at all. Amanda is a really big into Settlers of Catan. She like plays national tournaments all the time, and like this is like her passion. Like she loves it, you know. Like literally, I mean, she's like nationally ranked, I think, or something like that. You know, went to the U.S. Open or whatever it is of Catan. You know, and it's this game about these settlers of this like mythical town of Catan, and you have to like you build your little village. Each person has like resources and stuff like that. You build your little village, you trade, you negotiate. It's like a interacting with other players. There's always 4 players in the game, kind of thing. Anyway, long story short, I've only ever played this game once, and it was over at Amanda's house. She was like, "Let's play this." You talk about it all the time. I was like, "Let's play this game." So her husband, myself, and I think one of our other friends sat down, and we were playing this game one night, and she was telling us the rules. She was walking through everything. One of the things she was like, you know, you don't want to show like you're supposed to like trade cards with people, and like you can negotiate. It's like kind of Monopoly a little bit esque, you know, where you can say like, hey, I'll buy this from you or do this or whatever. Like you can there's some social interactions going on, and you get these certain amount of cards, you lay them face down, and I'm like, what would I just asked her? I was like, why do we lay them face down? If I was going to negotiate with somebody, don't you know, I don't mind if they see what I have. Like I want them to ask me, you know. And I was like, can I just turn up all my cards? And she was like, you don't. That's not what you do. And I go,
why not?
I go, why not? I mean, I was not. I mean, honestly, I wasn't being stupid. I was just trying to be like if I was going to negotiate with somebody, and I want to be transparent and honest, and I want to develop relationships around the table where people go, hey, Chris isn't going to lie to me about what he has or what he doesn't have. I can see, you know, what I can get from him or not, you know, like he's an open book. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to flip up my cards the entire time. You guys can see it, everything. What I ended up winning the game, right? Like, and I didn't mean to, and I didn't, and the game has a lot of luck into it as well. But like Amanda's like really good at this, and it was just one game, and it could have been a total anomaly. But my point of the matter is like when you come at things completely from an outsider's perspective, of going, I don't know how to play this game. I don't really care. You're telling me though that I needed to negotiate and build relationships with people around me. So like this is a strategy I'm going to employ. And you're like, well, you don't do that. And they're like, well, I am. There's no rule that says I can't do it. Like, anyway, like that was just a good example that came to mind.
Right.
You know, when you come at something from a completely different perspective, all of a sudden you find these solutions and these ideas.
Because these solutions, like, you know, having your cards face down, it's something that they just took it. They didn't question why. They just say, hey, that's the way it works. That's a map. That's a paradigm. That's an anchor. That's a biases that we inherited, right? And because you already in that, you don't think about, hey, should we, you know, flip it up so people can see? They don't think about it. It never crossed their minds. And that's why they can't see a creative, novel solutions to a problem they have inside. So that's my point, is that you have to approach it with a blank slate, because if you don't, it's going to hinder you. 90% of the time, it's going to give you the wrong path to, you can't find things because you, for whatever reason, our biases, we are blind to it. I mean, it could be right in front of you and you don't see it. Saying, where is this? Where is this? Right? Because you are looking at something else. That's why it is very, very beneficial for a person who wants to solve a problem, any problem. I mean, I'm talking about whether it's work, whether it's life, whether, school, whatever. Any problem you want to solve, approach it with a blank canvas. Think about it. You don't want to paint with a existing splatter or a blemish on a canvas and start to. It's much harder and very hard to do that.
Look at dudes like Steph Curry or something like that. He's shooting threes from the logo, and you're like, "What are you doing? Like, that's not how you play. You get the ball into your big guy, and you." I was reading Malcolm Gladwell's David and Goliath here recently, and it was a good book. I always love a good Malcolm Gladwell book, and I hadn't read that one before. And he was talking about this junior girls national basketball team that they three-quarters of the team had never played basketball before in their life. Their dad was one of their parents was the coach, and he had never even heard of the game before. He was like, I just agreed to do this. And he used to play cricket, like, and stuff like that. He was Indian. He used to play cricket and squash or something like that.
Right.
And he agreed to coach his daughter's team, and they were from like Redwood City, California or something like that. Anyway, so he's studying the game, and he looks around, he's like, I have people that have no idea what they're doing. They have no talent, no skill. They've never even played the game before. And he goes, well, what do we do? So he put together the strategy of, I'm gonna, he watched like games, and he was like, I don't understand why they just stop immediately retreat back to their defensive end and give three-quarters of the court up, and let people just walk up and kind of initiate their offense, and then they
why are you waiting? Why are you waiting for the defender to come? Say go and execute your offensive play. That's what I see all the time in basketball. It's like you bounce it, you dribble the ball to the other side of the court, and you wait. And then you wait, and then you have all the defender comes back, and then you stop playing. I don't get it.
That's the same thing. He saw, and he was like, wait a minute. So there's like a 5-second rule if you don't get the ball in, right? Like, that's like step one. And he goes, okay, fine. We're just gonna do a full court press the entire time, 100%. And he was like, and then if they get the ball in, then they only have 10 seconds to get across the line. So we're gonna keep hounding them there. And if they get across that, then it is what it is. Like, but I have a feeling that we'll end up stealing the ball a lot more. We'll get more layups on our own end because, we'll have easier shots and yada, yada, yada. So they did that. They pressed the whole game, all the time, all day, every day. And they ended up winning a national championship, and they had no idea what they're doing, but all they did was shoot layups and press people, and people just weren't expecting it, And I know that doesn't work at every level. Like, I think of like tennis, or whatever.
But
like,
it gives you an ability to see things that will be ignorable. And people blind means that they ignore. It's something we keep ignoring, right? Because we've seen this so many times, we ignore it. It becomes we see things that people ignore.
Agreed.
And having that perspective is going to give you that edge. It's not going to be 100%, but it gives you a whole much more leverage. So that's the thing is, there's a lot of mental models out there. It's about like first order thinking and second order thinking and nth order thinking, and having beginner's mind. Bunch of these mental models, right? And to me, that's just really good because you need to approach it from a different perspective. And one of the things that we would ask, if you want to have absolute ignorance, how do you do that? If you, for example, a tennis player, right?
I was just getting ready to say a tennis example. Like, how do you do that? Okay, so here's a great point. So there was this guy that I was playing last year, maybe about a year and a half ago, and he's really good. Like, he's a great counter puncher. He doesn't generate his own power at all, but like the harder that I hit it at him, the more that he's able to generate more angles and more pace back at me, right? And and that's how I like to play. I like to hit the ball hard and try to go for lines and try to dictate play. Well, that's exactly what he wants me to do. So in this game, I mean, I was just bashing the ball as hard as I could over and over again. We were battle royale, and I was exhausted. and I felt like I was just gaining no headway against the guy, you know. And we were, you know, every game was close, and it might as well just flip a coin and see who wins, kind of thing.
Right.
And so I finally was like, screw it. I'm just gonna moonball this guy. Like, when I say moonball, I mean like literally, like, you don't use, most people, it's like offensive if you use like heavy lob shots and things like that and just hit it high in the air and whatever and like see what happens. Well, so I did that against this guy, and he can't generate his own pace, and he just started missing every shot possible. It was insane. Like, I mean, I ended up just killing him in the second set. The third set that we played, you know, he walked off the court. He was like, I don't want to play anymore. Like, he was like, this just isn't any fun. And I felt really bad. See, here's the thing: is like when you full court press people and you start to use your imagination and you start to go, why am I not using the full? Like, I can hit the ball as high as I want to, as far as I want to, as short as I want to, with as much spin as I want to, which is with as much pace or not pace. Like, you know, there's a million different ways that you can use the geographic dimensions on a tennis court, right? You know, there's no limit to the height you can hit a ball, right? Like, at all, as long as it goes over the net and lands into the court, you know. So you know, as you get into, like, you know, higher level play, people will have a counterpunch to that really fast, you know. You know, where they'll take it out of the air and, you know, just crush it at you, kind of thing. But a lot of like players that are at my level, even though I play at a good level and a high level, like, they still don't know how to counterpunch that. It's like full court press in basketball, right? You're like, well, this isn't how you're supposed to play. You know, like, well, who said the rules of how you're supposed to play? Now, the funny thing is about this example is I actually felt terrible, because I was like, that you only do that when you want to win, right? So here's the thing that we need to keep in mind on this particular like what we're talking about. Outcomes shouldn't matter. Like, if I'm meditating, the outcome of that meditation isn't the point, right? It is just to meditate. So I don't care if I win that match, or if I go and exercise my you know what I mean? So if tennis is my meditation, then it shouldn't be outcome based, right? But if it's not, and I want to win, then yeah, use your imagination and go back to first principles and just say, like, what am I not seeing here? Like, you know, everybody plays the same way. Like, play a different way, you know. Serve and volley, you can do whatever. I mean, there's a million different things you can do, right? You know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So what I have like a trick for that I use for myself is it's a trick I actually learned from you.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm intrigued. Okay.
Yeah. So do you know the trick?
I have no idea. No.
Okay. So the trick of trying to be getting a blank canvas when you approach a problem is, this is what we're talking about when you were walking your dog with your wife Felicia, you know, and you have this crazy idea, right? So all you have to do is imagine you're an alien looking down at two people playing tennis. And you observe it with like, hey, I'm an alien. I have no idea. Like, we're talking about the observation of a dog, right? And an owner. Was it yesterday or day before that?
It was about a week ago. Yeah, I can't remember when it was.
But think about it. That would work. Yeah. Because the thing is, you come from this perspective as an alien and say, hey, why is that dog, you know, walking that little tall two-legged pet, right? And why are these other, you know, other two-legged is in the car looking around, and you know, they looks like the guy with the light on top of the little four-wheel drive is the boss, right? Everybody, when he comes around, everybody is slowing down and giving him ways to go. That's the boss, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So when you're looking down from that perspective, is even if you don't have beginner's mind, absolutely, like, as you know, hey, like me, I don't know tennis, I can kind of say, hey, why did you do that, right? If you look from that perspective, you will have a beginner's mind, and you can see the things that you would normally ignore just because you are already an expert in tennis. You ignore a lot of the things that you say, hey, you just have to hit it backhand like this, you have to hit forehand like this, you're gonna have to run in the middle after you're done, right? Stuff like this is ingrained into your biases, and you already use them. But if you think from the guy, say, why am I running to the middle? Right.
No, it's a great point. I still don't understand why people overhead serve. I mean, like, I don't actually understand it. I mean, like, I feel like I can hit a 90-mile-an-hour forehand, you know, with a lot of angle and down low and kind of zipping away. Like, why the hell? don't I just try to rip a forehand from the baseline on the serve? Nobody said you had to serve it like a certain way, like, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, I actually don't know it, but a part of me is like terrified to try that in a match, because like you see people do underhand serves like in the pros, and it's like the ultimate sign of disrespect. I mean, like the ultimate sign of disrespect. People are like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like this
because that's the bias again.
I
That's the
know.
bias again. They say, why can you do a loft serve?
Yeah, why can't you do a lot? Well, I mean, well, that would be an awful idea because it would bounce and they could immediately come in and just, you know, smash it right at your, you know. But like you could.
But
I mean,
why can't you?
try it. I mean,
Why can't you? Because the thing is, so what's the difference between a loft serve and return of a loft serve? It's the same thing, because when the guy serve you, he go overhead, right? He toss the ball up or high, and he smack it. So if you do an underhand loft serve, it goes all the way up, and then it bounce down. It bounce down. That's when he does his serve.
Right.
So if you're able to return his serve, a loft serve, it's basically, hey, you're giving him the serve from your perspective.
I guess.
So it's not different,
that way.
Right?
It's a little bit different because you're hitting it from 5 feet away versus, you know.
But the thing is, when you do a loft serve, you control. It's just like we're talking about you playing offense yesterday, right? Versus defense, because you are lofting the ball to where you want it to be. So he has to go to the spot.
The serve has got to go in one spot that they're already at. But I get what you're.
Exactly.
I get what you're saying.
I mean, there's a square. There's that little square on that side. It has to go into right. But you can go to the front of the square. You know, close to the front, close to the back, close to the middle, wherever you want the ball to be. He has to go there. He has to react. He has to play defense, because you control where you place the ball.
Yeah,
right?
you can put it wherever you want.
And so that's the thing is that, hey, I want you to try to serve from here, because let's say you put it too closer to the net. When he smack it down, he's gonna push it overboard. He's gonna go out of bounds.
Good. I mean, or
you think about it, right?
I mean, in a weird way, he could get stuck in a weird position if he didn't hit a perfect winner. Then
if he did,
you have the whole open court.
Exactly. He's jumping up and he's hitting and he's right at the net. You can loft it over him or go to the back side on the opposite end. It's hard for him to turn and go and then whack it back. Think about it, right?
I agree.
When you think from that hand, you know, things people just don't do.
So, right. No, I mean,
no one has ever done a loft serve intended. They're always overhead.
I don't think so.
It as hard as it could. Right.
I mean,
I've seen all the tennis matches that never one does that.
I agree. I mean,
there's nothing to say that you couldn't.
They can't hit it out of the air, so it has to bounce. So
right.
I mean, I don't know. Can you hit a serve out of the air? I don't actually know. I don't think I would ever have even thought of that.
I mean, it has to go in a rule book. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't prevent you from not doing a loft serve. The server may serve underhand.
Wait, that's a server.
But you want to return, right? The receiver needs to have a bounce.
Can you return? Yeah, can you return?
Can you return a serve before it bounce? No. Oh yeah, that's good.
yeah. Maybe attempting.
That's gonna be difficult.
You know, that's actually that would be really interesting if you could, because then you could just stand right up at the net and like you could hit it as hard as you want. I just smack it right back into the court like in a nice little ankle. That'd be really interesting if that didn't, you know, if you
you should try it in a recreational tournament and see what happened. And then you
I mean, it says you can't. It says it's not allowed.
No. I'm talking about doing a loft serve.
Oh,
you still follow the rule.
I'm sure. I mean, yeah, you can do whatever you want.
It's basically an underhand serve. It's like, well, you can't tell me how hard I need to hit it.
There you go. Yeah, you cannot volley back a serve. It has to.
Yes. It has to bounce on that, because the thing is, the serve needs to have to hit that little square in that square for it to be a valid serve. Right. And then that's why they allow you can't hit it.
But that's not true, because if you hit a ball like out of the, like if you just hit the other player and they hit it with the racket, that's your point. Well, no, that is true. That means you can't touch the ball unless it's okay. So that's the same thing. Never mind. I was gonna say you could like just hit the other player. Maybe that's a serving technique. Just try to hit the other player. Like just try to hit the ball as hard as you can at them. and like wherever they're standing at, just and make them jump out of the way, you know.
Yeah.
And then you win the point if you hit them, you know.
It's just a strategy, but you don't do the strategies unless you get rid of the
God,
biases that you have already.
I can't even imagine playing a match against somebody that would try to physically just whack me with the ball as hard as he could, like on every serve. And if like even if he accomplished it, I would be like, I don't want to play with you more. Like I mean, like I'd be like, this sucks. You're just hitting me with a tennis ball.
Hey
as hard
man,
as you
it's
can,
lonely
you know?
at the top. That's what the
Right,
cool say.
I mean, it really is. I mean,
It's
you got
like,
to be willing to do
no, I
something.
don't want to play Chris. I don't want to play
Yeah,
Chris.
yeah. The guy tries to hit me with the ball every single serve. It's insane, you know. All right. Enough.
All right.
We're over time officially, but yeah. So I think moral of the story here is, you know, what would you discover if you approach your life and actions every day with the beginner's mind? You know, like the stuff that we're talking about. Like think of like you're like True said. Think you land like you're an alien and you're looking at a situation and you're like, why do we live in these houses, you know? Why do we do whatever, you know, like
Exactly.
you know, yeah, I mean, and then you might be able to put a unique spin on what we're doing and ask some interesting questions that might lead you to somewhere where you know, you
But
never know.
most people will miss it
Right.
just because, you know, like I said, you know, they have already a bias. Once they learn it, you know, they can't do osmosis learning anymore.
There as I put on here, there is no rules of life, you know, like there's just, you can do anything, and just use your imagination. Like that's a big part of this whole entire journey, right?
Right.
Is don't lose your curiosity, be imaginative, have fun conversations, think of things differently, and I swear to you, it's just so much more fun. I don't know, I don't know that I have the words
We
to
talking
describe
about
it.
this past a lot of time.
Well, hey, it's like meditation. I mean, this is kind of like meditation, you know. I
It
mean,
is.
it's not like we're staring at our phones. It's not like we're, you know, I mean, we're, you know, I would say most 90% of the time we're pretty engaged in the conversation, you know.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least, you know. So yeah, I mean, I would call this meditation. So there you go. We just meditated. So congratulations.
Exactly. For a whole hour, we didn't think about anything else except for how to approach, you know, a problem with the beginner's mind. I
Exactly.
mean, I didn't think about. I mean, I forgot about everything
Yeah.
else. Like what I did before, I completely have forgot. I didn't realize until, oh, it's already past a lot of hour.
Right. So it's
So
time to go. All right.
it's time to go.
Until tomorrow, everyone. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you all soon.
Yeah. See you. Good night.